Hey guys, Steve here from Bloom Audio. In 2016, 64 Audio released the Tia Fourté, an IEM that pushed the limits of what was possible at that time. 6 years later, Fourté Blanc is here with essentially the same design, but can it continue to push those limits? Following up on the Fourté Noir from a few years ago, Fourté Blanc is a retuned version of the 64 Audio Tia Fourté, available in limited quantities, only 500 being sold worldwide. Now, the original Fourté was a technical marvel at the time, offering imaging and soundstage above anything else that was out there at the time. But since then, we've seen a number of advancements in driver design and technology, some of which have made some really great IEMs at lower price points, and others that have pushed that price ceiling ever higher since the Fourté was released. So, in 2022, does the Fourté Blanc still have what it takes? Let's take a closer look. While the IEM is a limited edition model, outside of the IEM itself and the box, there's not too much like special exclusive swag here. Now the general packaging is a pretty nice step up. It's a really nice texture to the outer box here. Great look to it. And this white box, to me it looks really cool. You can kind of see the 64 Audio logo is on there, but it's kind of hidden as well, the way that they've embossed that. Now, we've already taken it all apart, but in the package you get the selection of ear tips that 64 Audio has been offering more recently. Foam, there's a wider bore silicone, and then the spin fit. These are CP 150, but with a 155, with a special change in the fit so that they fit onto the 64 Audio IEMs perfectly. Then the case, cleaning tool, shirt clip, and then of course a 64 Audio sticker. Got to put that on your laptop or something. Now you get the IEM themselves, and this is the 64 Audio Pearl cable that comes in the box with it. They're actually shipping with a different upgraded cable. It's a $1,000 4.4 millimeter shielded silver core cable. It's like a silver core and then has silver plated copper wrapped around a silver core. So it's a pretty cool cable. And of course the IEMs themselves, it's this white aluminum shell with a faceplate that kind of matches the copper patina look of the original Fourté. They just look amazing. And one benefit, a lot of the more recent flagship models that have come out, pretty bulky IEMs with a lot of drivers in there. This is a simpler design. It's a single dynamic driver, 3 balanced armatures. It's a smaller shell, it's more lightweight. It's going to be an easier fit for a lot of people. So something else to keep in mind about Fourté Blanc. So yeah, great package and fit, but how do they sound? The original Tia Fourté had a W-shaped sound signature that could elicit a sort of love it or hate it reaction. Had this strong emphasis in the upper mids, lower treble that offered really strong clarity, a lot of great imaging characteristics, but wasn't always the best with like popular music genre, vocal rock and pop, while it excelled with classical, orchestral, and soundtrack type music. So Fourté Blanc aims to tame that a little bit to make it more versatile sound for popular music, while also trying to maintain some of that clarity and some of those same imaging characteristics. With that middle section of the W tamed down, Fourté turns into a little bit more of a V-shaped sort of sound. there's a broad emphasized shelf in the bass going from the mid bass down into the sub bass, as well as some real sparkle and air up top, and then a more neutral mid range. So the bass, again, great deep extension with a small bump in that mid upper bass range, gives you a nice punch, kind of tight impact there, along with really good sense of texture and detail in the bass instruments. So you don't just get that impact, you get that feeling of the texture of, the bass drum head or the bass guitar string, the upright bass, all of that. You really get that strong texture along with the impact in the bass. The mids remain largely neutral. Again, there's really a natural timbre, a good weight. There's maybe a slight warmth to it, but overall very, very much natural. And that extends up through most of the treble. You really don't have any kind of emphasis or that much of a really noticeable recession or cut anywhere in that range. Until you get to the upper treble where, again, you get that sparkle and air. And it is a pretty key characteristic of the Fourté, is this balance between this upper range brightness, the neutrality of the mid-range, and then that nice emphasis in the bass. The general effect of all of this is, again, you have this strong low-end response that's also very well controlled and very detailed in there. And it's a neutral to slightly warm overall sound, accompanied by that good air and sparkle in the top end, and just a really highly resolving feeling overall. So while it doesn't have that, intense clarity of the original Tia Fourté, it maintains just a great, clean, clear, detailed, crisp delivery. The soundstage is very wide, but not as deep, putting the listener sort of up front in an arena setting where you can really visualize that wide stage out in front of you, but there's not as much depth as there is width. Still good height and depth, but just it feels more of a oval than a circle in terms of the way that three-dimensional image is cast. Again, really strong imaging, a very vivid holographic presentation there with the placement and the construction of the mids and all that. Do a great job in building the whole musical picture for you. Among the various innovations that we've seen in IEMs since 2016, when the original Tia Fourté was released, the more exotic driver configurations than, like a 4-driver hybrid, and also the use of EST drivers for the treble, two of the most notable. So one IEM that combines a somewhat exotic configuration and the EST drivers is the Visioneer's EXT, and it combines those things in a way that actually ends up in a really similar place to Tia Fourté. So we wanted to talk about that as a comparison between the EXT with its 2 dynamic drivers and 4 EST drivers versus the Fourté Blanc with, again, 1 dynamic and 3 balanced armatures, and how those end up in a similar place but also end up slightly different. So both IEMs have this, deep, broad bass shelf going down, strong impact, good texture in the bass, though I think the Fourté Blanc offers stronger texture there. And then on the flip side, they both give you this bit of extra sparkle and air in the high. It adds that little bit of extra energy and excitement to the music there as well. But neither of them totally neglect the mids. But the mids are where the execution really is a lot different. So where EXT uses a dynamic driver for the mids, you get this more organic, lush sound in the mid-range and an overall more warm character. This comes out a lot in the vocals, where EXT has this smoother, sweeter tone to the vocals, while Fourté Blanc has a little more crisp, a little more precision in the vocal delivery, and a little more presence. The Fourté Blanc vocals cut through a little bit more where they can get more lost in EXT. Spatially, EXT presents a smaller sound stage, but one that feels a little bit more evenly round, especially when it comes to the sort of front to back imaging. So Fourté Blanc, again, is this very wide, still has good height and depth, but it's just a little bit shallower, where EXT, again, less wide, but more of that front to back sensation in the presentation of the image. Between the two, the really big difference does come down to that heightened sense of clarity with Fourté Blanc and that more lush organic sound of EXT. And even, when you think about the EST drivers, the treble is very similar, just with Fourté Blanc having a little bit more energy up there and EXT maybe having a little bit less tendency toward fatigue in certain contexts. But it really shows how, without the EST drivers, without using an exotic driver configuration or anything like that, Fourté Blanc does really hang with, EXT is one of my favorite IEMs of the past few years, and Fourté Blanc absolutely hangs with EXT in that same class of modern flagship IEMs. In the era of 10 plus driver flagship IEMs with bone conduction bass and everything else, it's nice to see that with the right tuning, the right expertise, you can still take 4 drivers, 1 dynamic and 3 balanced armatures, and deliver a top tier flagship sound. 64 Audio is marketed Fourté Blanc as a final reinterpretation of Tia Fourté and maybe somewhat of a farewell tour. So I think it's the perfect send-off to this historic IEM, and it's really getting me hyped for whatever comes next. Thanks for watching. You can check out Fourté Blanc and a lot of other great products at bloomaudio.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be back soon with more hi-fi personal audio content.